Still on my quest to create the perfect B-roll shooting station. Next, it's time for some automated slider action. You've seen in a couple of my last episodes, I've been putting together this B-roll station so I can shoot things in product and do stuff like that. I got the slider, I got the tripod, I got the remote HDMI monitor set up, I got the lights, I got the table, everything else. Now I want to create repeatable shots. I want to be able to set an A point and a B point in the speed and have the slider move exactly like that and create these repeatable motion shots and be able to control the slider so my hands are off it and it's smooth. That's why we're going to take a look at this. It's the Konova S2. It's under $200, which is pretty cheap for a motorized slider mechanism. Let's go check it out. Okay, here we go with my typical 5-second unboxing. And there we go. This is the motor. If you look over here, it's got a geared wheel and some pulleys, and that's what makes the slider move on the motor. Right here are these two switches. These are for the shutter, and it controls the camera when you're doing time lapse. This is the LAN port right there that you plug between the motor and the controller. These are the two end caps. You basically unscrew these two and then you mount it onto the slider, and they're movable and you can put tension in it. Now, I got this belt that came with this. It's quite long. It'll fit my 3-foot slider and my 5-foot slider, and I like that you don't have to cut it. This is a micro USB. You can also power the control unit through AC power, which is great. This is just the mounting bracket. It mounts to the slider and for the motor. These are the screws and wrenches that came with it, which is a plus. Here's the controller. You have the front, there's a LAN cable. You can power through this DC here, on off switch there. The back, this is how you control the unit with a toggle kind of thing. It's a press button and up, down, left, right. Now on the back, you have the ability to mount any type of Sony NPF battery. As you'll see later, I'll mount a brick on this thing because I like having a lot of power. Let's put this thing together on a slider and see what we got. Now I've taken the slider off my camera so you can see what I'm doing and how to put this thing together. Let's take a look at this area right here. Here's that little mounting block. It's keyed and it just fits into this little slide here. You just slide it in, screw it down, it's locked, it's not going anywhere. Now with the smaller Allen wrench on the top, you just unscrew these two Allen screws, and now the plate is able to be loosened, and you take the grooved belt. You want the flat side on top, and you just feed the belt in here. Then you just take the Allen wrenches and lock it back down. Not too tight, just so it's snug. You don't want to yank these screws down and strip these heads. You just want it snug so it doesn't move around. Now let's go over to the center of the slider. This is the part that moves back and forth on the slider. There's a little screw on the other end that you can lock it down. You want to do that when putting this together so it isn't moving all over the place. Here's the block I was talking about. I think you can see that. The bottom has these small little tabs. You just turn it around, stick it on there, and using the included screw that they give and the Allen wrench, you just mount this onto the slider, and that's going nowhere. Now the way this motor and this belt works is it threads up through the bottom, over the top where the grooves in the pulley are in, and over on the other side, which locks it down. And That's how the motor pulls the carriage back and forth. So it's going to mount this way. So we're going to thread that through from the top, around, and down. And we're just going to place this onto our new mounting block, thread down these red knobs here, and that's locked going nowhere. You can pull this tight. It's not going anywhere. Now let's head down to the right end where we'll put on the other mounting block. Same thing. Just take the slide and slide it into the grooves. Now remember, I said this belt was long. They sent me one, so I'm just going to drape it out the end. I'm glad for that so I don't have to cut it and I can use it on my 5-foot slider. Same deal. On this end, you just stick the end in. You take the Allen wrench that they give you and you just tighten the thing down. You don't have to pull it really tight, but you do want the belt in there rather snug. Now, since I have a lot of play in this, all I have to do is undo the block, put your finger on there and pull it taut, not too tight, just so there's some stretch in it right there, and lock it back down. That'll work. Here's the controller, here's the knob, and here's this LAN cable that comes with it. It looks like an Ethernet cable. This thing is really long, 3, 4, 5, 6. This has easily got to be 6 feet, maybe 8 feet. Just plug the LAN cord into the motor. Now on the other side, just plug the LAN cable into the controller and you're good to go. Now here we are, we're connected. Got a battery on the back. Boots up, and it's asking me to set an A point. So let's just move that down there, press the button. That gives me my A point, my first point that it's going to recognize. Now it's asking me to set the B point. Let's just do a little small one. And let's say right there, press, I got a B point. I can do time lapse, live motion, reset points. Let's just do some live motion. And I'm going to do auto mode because I want it to do everything for me. Now it's asking me the duration. I've got it set to 20 seconds, which is going to be fine. And do I want a ramp? A ramp is going to slow up and slow down as it goes to each end of the AB points. And then do I want to go back and forth and just let this thing running? I do want to do that. You can start at the start point of A or B. I'm just going to start at B where it's at. And over 20 seconds, it's going to move back and forth, slow down, go to the other end and start up. Let's start it. Now here we go. Now it's going to move between these short little A points over 20 seconds. So you can see it ramping down right there. That's going to ramp back up. You can get a really smooth, nice shot here, especially over the length of the slider. Here it comes. It's going to ramp down. The ramp down is great because what it does is it makes sure it doesn't move or jiggle the camera or the slider at all. So here it is ramping back. And this is just going to sit here until it runs out of battery hours later and just go back and forth, ramping up and down between the A and B points. Let's go in here and just take a few options. Like here's the speed control. And right now it's doing the A and B points. So even though I'm manually doing this, it's still going to ramp up. It's still going to go to the end, and it's still going to ramp down. That's really nice for me because it'll allow me to create this nice repeatable shot. The A point doesn't move, the B point doesn't move, the speed is the same, the ramping up and ramping down is the same. You'll see that later when I do the bass guitar type shot on this, and I do the same ramp on the whole guitar and then back into the strings themselves. Makes for really nice repeatable shots. Now you hold on the stick and it basically returns to the menu. Let's go for 50%. I want to show you the difference between these. This is now moving at 50% speed. That's really slow and it gives you beautiful, beautiful smooth slider shots. Now check this out. Let me ramp this down to 1%. I don't even know if you can see this. Let's check it out. Yeah, that's moving. This is at 1%, really, really, really slow. Now, realize you can also use this for time lapse. So if you're time lapsing over 8 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours, it's going to move and it's going to move these slow shots. Now let's reset the A/B points. And at this point, when we reset this, when we start up, we're freewheeling. We're basically default 100%. You can run this thing up and down the slider, 3 foot, 5 foot, whatever you want. It's kind of nice to be able to start this up, throw it in there and yank it around and get your shot. Now, I'm not a real time-lapse guy, but let's take a look at these. Now, it's asking me what my exposure is. You're going to set your exposure to the camera, basically, probably more. Now, the duration, you could set this thing for 99 hours and 99 minutes. That's, maybe you're doing a sky scene outside or something. Then you have the 0. Right now it's set at 0.003. That's just the interval. If there's a delay, now, this is a delay. This is cool. I could set this up and say in 1 hour and 5 minutes, that's when I want you to start doing the time lapse. And I can set the A and B points. I'm all set up. I hit start. It's going to take a photo, move to the next position, take the next photo, move to the next position. And you can also set how many pictures you want. And this thing will figure out what it needs to do. That's how this works as far as time lapse goes. Now, a hold down button press takes you back to the main menu. Now, the next thing, you can reset your A and B points. And then finally, we have the settings. I can set what language I need. I can factory reset everything, which is nice. If you get things out of whack, you just reset everything and it works. Well, finally, it tells me the percentage of my battery. I have 60-some percent. I've been playing with this thing for quite some time, which is really nice. And then on the last one, it tells me the model of my battery, which is really cool. Just hit reset AB. If you just want to throw a slider shot on there, and then you're just in manual mode, you can go back and forth as you like. Now let's take this and mount it on the camera over there and get some real shots and see how this thing works and make sure it's cool. Now let's give a listen right here. I just wanted to point that out. There is noise coming from this motor, but you're not going to really care. Usually you're mounting this slider 10 foot, 7 foot, 12 foot away from your subject that you're filming. If you are filming a subject with a microphone, you're not going to hear that motor noise. You're going to hear the motor noise right now because this thing's sitting, a foot away from the slider and the motor. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about it. Here's a slider shot of a bass guitar, that one of the loves of my life. This is really, really smooth stuff. I can't do this by hand without any jitter. Here's a close-in shot. I don't see any jitter. It's not moving around. It's not bouncing around. It's really, really, really smooth. Now, I'm going to take this slider shot, same speed. I zoomed in the lens, repeated the shot, and then I go back out to the same repeatable shot. I have the same speed, and that's just awesome. Now, this is odd and unusual to have the slider like this. But there are times when you're outside or you're on the side of a cliff or you're doing something and you want to mount your slider in a different position. There is no way that I expect this slider motor to be able to handle this rig. I would use a smaller camera and it would be fine. I must have at least 10 pounds of stuff on here. I just wanted to show this to you. The problem is, it's obvious this motor is not going to be able to handle this weight. If I try and move this thing up, it's just going to sit there and junk. It can't do it. But you can certainly move the slider up by giving a little hand. So let me just move the slider up to the first position that I want to shoot. And I'm just giving it a little helping hand. It's not a lot. And when I get it to the top of where I want it, I let go. Now here's what impressed me. There's a lot of weight on here, and there's a lot of weight on this belt and this motor. Regardless, when I start this thing on its down, this is at 100% on its down slide, watch this. It continues to move, it's smooth, it does the right thing, and I can get the shot that I want. It's a bit of a jury rig to do this, But for this unit and for this purpose, I am really, really impressed that it'll allow me to do this. And I'm pretty confident I can use this motorized unit pretty much on my sliders anywhere for any purpose. Here I am doing the repeatable shots where it's automated and going back and forth. It will sit there and do this forever. You can see how I have this mounted. I'm totally hands off. I don't have to touch the camera. I don't have to touch anything at all, actually. And this is going to give you the best shot you can possibly get on a slider. I'm real interested to use this and get some really epic shots. First, make sure this locking pin is always loosened up. But here's what I really like about this motor. The unit is not on, and unlike other motorized slider units, I can still move the slider carriage back and forth. Who would have thought putting a motor on a slider would give you a better, more consistent slider shot by just leaving it off? Here I decided to put this doll on an electronic turntable, so it's spinning in one direction, and I also have the slider going in another direction. I like this because I can do some really cool moving shots and some time ramps.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Cool, that's exactly what I wanted. I have some links for the Konova S2 and a bunch of other stuff in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell icon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.